German armour that the Allies found on the Western Front were rather intimidating to their Shermans with the short 75. Losses were high when the Western Allies encountered Tigers, Panthers and other German tanks. This is because when facing tanks, the German armour was far superior. To counter this, the Sherman was added with a 76mm gun and was introduced. As well as the Firefly, this variant of the Sherman could effectively knock out any German tank fielded during the war. The date is June the 6th, 1944, D-Day. The Allies are preparing for an invasion of German-occupied France and were going to have to face the inevitability of facing German armour. The Allies had gained a strong foothold on the beaches and moved inward. The hedgerows and bocage of Normandy, which were tall hedges outlining fields, created a rather complicated form of combat. The deep sunken lanes and tall hedgerows proved to be an extremely good defensive position, favouring the retreating German forces. This allowed for anti-tank guns, Panthers, Tigers, infantry with Panzerfaust to get an ideal ambush position, whilst waiting for the Allied Shermans and infantry to creep forward before destroying them with ease. Tigers and Panthers could sit in a hull-down position, carefully range-finding the Allied tank column over 2 kilometers away, then fire and hit the target dead on. This happened partly due to the German tanks yielding the more powerful high-velocity anti-tank guns. These guns, such as the Pak-42 and Kampfwagenkanone 36, were designated not to lob HE shells at infantry and bunkers, but to shoot high-velocity APHE shells at other tanks. Whereas the Sherman's gun was meant to fire HE at infantries and bunkers. Shermans could fire the 75mm M61 APHE shell, but that did have little effect at long range and could only penetrate the sides of a Panther and the rear of a Tiger at very close range. Therefore, the need for an upgun Sherman was necessary. The British had tried putting a 17-pounder into a Sherman, and it worked. Churchill had emphasised that in preparation for the landings at D-Day, there would have to be a Sherman capable of taking on the heavier German armour. This Sherman became known as the Firefly. I talked about this a week or so back, so please be sure to check it out if you're interested. However, the Americans did not want to adopt the Firefly. They wanted to make their own. So, they set about creating new turrets for the Sherman to house the 76mm gun. The British Firefly had to squeeze the gun breech into the small Sherman turret, so the Americans wanted to improve the space within the tank. Therefore, the Americans made a new turret. Fisher Body designed the turrets of the M4A276, however not much is known as most of the M4A276s were used by the Soviets through Lend-Lease. The turret seems to be quite like the Chrysler turret, as well as the changes done. Fisher also produced 525 M4A376 VVSS, starting in the September of '44. Not much is known about the M4A276 with the VVSS suspension, as it saw limited use in US service. However, the Soviets were given through the Lend-Lease program. They were very happy with it, as it had better improvement than the standard M4A2. The 76mm gun was a 76mm M1. It could fire the M62 APHE shell, as well as smoke, AP, HE and more. The 76mm M1 was developed by the US Ordnance Department in 1942 and was to be fitted on the M4. The decision to mount a more powerful gun on the existing M4 was made, due to the experience against heavier German armour. Original specifications were specified for a 3-inch gun to be placed within the Sherman in 1941. At the time, the US were not involved in ground combat in the European theatre until Operation Torch in November of '42. The 3-inch gun was deemed to be too heavy, weighing just short of a ton, around 900 kilograms. It fired the same shells as those found on the M10 tank destroyer, however it did have different cartridge cases, so the shell casings and shells could not be mixed up. The next stage was the T1, then tested at the Aberdeen Proving Grounds. It was found that it created some instability due to recoil, and was countered by shortening the barrel and adding a counterweight to the breech. When testing the M1 gun, the counterweight started to not work at a certain angle, and therefore the counterweight was placed at the back of the turret. However, in 1943 this was rejected by the armoured forces, as the turret was too crammed. This gun later became used on the M18 Hellcat. I'm considering doing an M18 Hellcat later on. This may be this time next year at the latest. Thank you very much for watching this shorter video. I'm struggling to find a lot of information for the M4A276W, and I didn't want to dwell on it too much as the Soviet Sherman, as that is for a later video. If you have enjoyed, then please give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe. It really means a lot. As always, thank you for watching and stay safe. Goodbye.